Sorry if I offend anyone. Hi everyone. I'm a little bit stressed lately, and I have to explain why. This is probably you may know why. I mean, one of the reasons is because the presence of my friend here, Liam from One Direction. You may know him. I had to explain you the whole context. This whole thing is part of a project. It's a docu-reality that my niece forced me to do. She is a big fan, and she just turned 30 years old. It's that age when people start thinking about accomplishing very meaningful things in the life. And in that context, she thought it would be a very good idea, and I agree with her, that basically her idea, and please don't steal it because I think it's a very good one, is to film me, and if you could just picture the whole thing, maybe you can just close your eyes, film me carrying Liam to war zones, to do some humanitarian work, and to give motivational speeches to children traumatized by war. I'm going to be acting as a ventriloquist because he doesn't talk. Not even the original one talks. I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be it's a great idea. I mean, the children will learn a lot about things like resilience, things like how is it to live under stress, and you know, these children they should know that from him. So if we don't win the Nobel Prize, we're certainly going to make it to, because it's so political, the whole thing about the Nobel Prize, we're going to make it to the Sundance Festival, so maybe we'll see there. The other reason why I'm very stressed is because of my voice, and microphones is always the same thing, and doing this thing in English, it sounds really like it's not me, and I really feel like I'm a little 10-year-old boy raised by birds, and I had this friend, he had this amazing voice, he always had this voice. It was a very, very deep voice, type of a Leonard Cohen voice, and apparently it was because he always smoked. He smoked since he was 6 years old, according to the legend. Since he was 3 years old, according to his own autopsy. He used to call my home, the landline. We used to have landlines in the 80s. I'm quite old. And my mother used to pick up the phone and tell me there is a gentleman looking for you. And the thing is that she probably thought that my friend was a pedophile after me, looking for me. And the interesting thing is probably she wasn't that concerned. She wasn't that concerned that the gentleman in question was a pedophile, as long as that gentleman was not a drug dealer. See, in the 80s and the 90s, you know, drug dealers and drugs, they were all paranoid about things, and pedophilia, nobody talked about that thing, nobody knew what it was. Probably most people thought it was some sort of natural science. You could almost hear mothers telling their children, listen, son, you know your friend, Mr. Smith, yeah, my pedophile friend. Yeah, your pedophile friend. His friend is very nice. Listen, I have to ask you a question. It's very important, so please pay attention. Sure, man. Does your pedophile friend take any drugs? Because if he does, he's not allowed into your room anymore. And he should. And it was all very, very crazy those days. And my mother is a little bit crazy, but not that crazy. And she always struggled with internet and technology in general. And she was quite sweet. She used to be a diplomat, so living in different countries and traveling. She used to tell me things like, why don't you send me that email to Paris, because I won't be in Rome, just send it to Paris. Make sure you send that email to Paris and not to Rome. Emails for some sort of carrier pigeon or something like that. Like, yeah, Mom, yeah, I'm going to send it there, not over there. You know that it doesn't work like that. But this sort of ultimate climax of her internet illiteracy, I'm not pronouncing that word correctly, illiteracy, so anyway, came with an episode that was partly my fault too, and it was my fault because I made the very stupid mistake of sending out, I probably have done this in the past, sending out this massive email to my friends telling an anecdote, copying my mother, including my mother and my friends. That was very stupid. So when I realized it was a little bit too late and I started receiving emails from my, and this is absolutely true, I'm not making this up, so I started receiving emails from my friends to me, and of course copying my mother, and they didn't know it was my mother, with all sort of anecdotes, very inappropriate anecdotes, mostly of sexual nature, and and that really proved a little bit too much for her, and she was very so she sent me an email the next day, and of course copying everyone, and it was a very kind of formal petition. For her, emails for some sort of letters to the authorities. And if I may, I would like to read this email. I'm just only translating the email because it's true, all these things. This is all true. So it says something like that. Dear son, I write you this, Dear son, I write you this email through the internet because something extremely bizarre has occurred. Yesterday, with great pleasure, I received over here in my account an internet email from you. Leaving aside your immutable grammar, the thing that got me distressed, as I'm sure will be to you too, came immediately after the email arrived in my house. As it happened, I started receiving over here emails from your friends addressed to you, which of course I didn't read. It is obvious that what happened is that our emails accounts have merged into one single email account. I'm not an internet expert, but may I venture an explanation for such a rare technological event? The internet may have decided that since we are so close, we should have just one email account. This may sound very romantic, but it's clear that the internet is trying to save cost at our expense. I trust that you will contact the internet authorities and resolve the situation as soon as possible. Love, your mother. P.S. I think that your friends will benefit from a good psychoanalyst specialized in sexual disorders. Buenas noches and good night.